Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back to the GBC SBT page. We're happy to be with you again to discuss Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur for one more evening. We have His Grace Krishna Abhishek Prabhu, in the academic world known as Dr. Abhishek Ghosh. He received his PhD from Chicago University in America, USA. And he focused on Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur, and he himself now has 2 books coming out about the Thakur. And so we're going to make our conversation today focused around those 2 books. Dr. Ghosh, Krishna Abhishek Prabhu, happy to have you back. Yesterday you were touching on how we can see Srila Prabhupada and the way he chose to bring the movement forth into the West, America, Europe, etc., was very much according to the architecture, or you use the word blueprint, of Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's idea of how Mahaprabhu's values and principles could be integrated with a kind of a modern society, which he recognized, whether Indian or Western, European, etc., were increasingly becoming homogenized. Can you bring us a little bit up to speed, maybe summarizing those ideas from yesterday, and then we can segue into discussing about the books?
Sure. Our acharyas looked at bhakti as a subjective science. What that means is, in the empirical method of doing sciences that traces back to thinkers like Auguste Comte and Francis Bacon, so to say, and many others, there is a whole process where you observe phenomena, you hypothesize, you experiment to check your hypothesis, and then if your experiments confirm the hypothesis, it must be repeatable in other places. And then something can become a theory or a law. A law means this is like the law of gravity. This is unviolable, right? At least in the Newtonian model, not in the quantum mechanics model. In terms of a subjective science, yoga itself can be considered a subjective scientific process. And there are a couple of academic articles on this. This means that instead of trying and experimenting with the world outside, as Gandhi would put it, Mohandas Gandhi would put it, my life is my laboratory, right? And he experimented with the truth, and that was the name of his autobiography. But in our terms, in the terms of the Bhagavat, it is an exact process by which one can develop what is called the wisdom of the heart. If you think about it, half of our human brain, it is said, focuses on numbers, analysis, quants, stuff like that. The other half is subjective. And then, one side or the other is stronger. Now, in our worldly education, we go to at least a K through 12 process. That means we started kindergarten, 12 years of education just to develop your rationality, your critical thinking skills. And then another 4 years of undergrad in the US, 3 years in India, the British system, and then a master. So we're looking at 16 to 18 years of education just to get to the point of being able to call yourself a master's degree holder in subject. The titles Bhaktivedanta, Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vinoda, these are like degrees, of accomplished people on the path of bhakti. And therefore, Prabhupada and Bhaktivinod Thakur calls bhakti an exact science, an exact subjective science. And just as Maharshi Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutras, kind of systematizing and summarizing the yoga processes that were already there and kind of identifying 2. One is Kriya Yoga, which is a short form, and a Raja Yoga, which is a long form. Similarly, Rupa Goswami organized the sadhan and raga paths of bhakti and said, if you follow this step, even if you are a total newcomer, even if you have no attraction to Krishna, even if you don't believe in, anything to do with Krishna, by the time you follow this process, you end up having taste for the holy name, and you understand how this is a science. Right? And so Bhaktivinod Thakur emphasized this point because a lot of people kept saying Krishna is a Hindu god, he's a cultural hero. And Bhaktivinod Thakur emphasized one basic simple point, that is, all that might be your Krishna, and no matter how you approach Krishna, it's all good. But the science of the subjective science of emotions that end up with the experience of rasa is Krishna's teaching, and that is universal. So the essence of what Bhaktivinod Thakur would say from the Chaitanya Charitamrita is Shuno Shuno Nityananda, Shuno Haridas, Sarvatra Amara Ga Karo Prakash. Listen Haridas, listen Nityananda. Go and do what I'm telling you. সকল দ্বারে দ্বারে গিয়া করো এই ভিক্ষা, বলো কৃষ্ণ ভজ কৃষ্ণ করো কৃষ্ণ শিক্ষা. Go door to door and beg. Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shikha. Shikha means education. And there is a huge difference between indoctrination and education. Indoctrination means I believe in certain things and I want you to believe in the same things also. If you don't do it, then you will have some bad consequence in your life. That is a very Protestant evangelical way of looking at spirituality. And because colonialism spread in the 16th through 20th centuries, that has become a normal way of thinking about religions. That my path is the best path, and then everyone else is, not as good as I am, and therefore they must believe what I believe. But the path of bhakti is not like that. It is, Prabhupada says very clearly, Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. If we are imposing anything artificially on the mind, then it is not Krishna consciousness, right? So one has to learn this whole process, this exact science, under somebody who is trained in that science. That is why Je Krishna Tattva Betta She Guru Hai. One who has practiced dharma, satya, saucha, tapadaya, yesterday we spoke, engaged and continues to engage in yoga, bhakti yoga, and eventually comes to the level of being able to experience bhava and rasa, and who has understanding of scripture, at least in a general level, to be able to guide a particular candidate to their level of realization, is a teacher. This is a shikha. And so initiation, and I'm sidetracking a little bit, but this is a very relevant point for the GBC SPTP folks. That is, Dikha is like college admission, and Shikha is like going to the classroom. Admission is very important. Otherwise, you're not in the college. You have not been formally accepted. You're an applicant. But back in the day, after Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada passed away, and even after Bhaktivinod Thakur passed away, some of his followers were fighting who has the right to give Dikha. Because we treat Dikha as something where a new devotee pledges their loyalty, time, and resources to a particular project, individual, and so on and so forth. Right? But Dikha, Jiva Goswami says, Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Papasya Nasanam Sa Diksheti Iti Prokta Deshikais Tattva Kovidai. That means there are many ways of Dikha, Bhagavad Dikha, Pancharatriki Dikha, and many other systems of Dikha. But real Dikha in our tradition is Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat, giving Divya Jnana, divine wisdom, Kuryat Papasya Nasanam, that destroys the roots of proclivity towards doing sinful activities. Sa Diksheti Iti Prokta, that is called Diksha, Deshikais, Tadva Kovidai, by intelligent people who are knowers of the truth. So Bhaktivinod Thakur emphasized one thing. He said, he didn't call it Dikha. He never initiated disciples because his guru was Bipin Bihari Goswami, who emphasized that only Brahmins in a lineage can offer Dikha. And Bhaktivinod Thakur said, no problem. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very upset with it, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur said no problem. In fact, there were many arguments between father and son, like any other family, but their fights were sometimes transcendental. So Saraswati Thakur was saying, why can't we get our, why can't we do our own thing? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I can give up my son, but I cannot give up my guru. Anyway, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur instituted the system of Pancha Samskar. That is, you notice the development of a person and you divide that development into 5 stages. Tapo, Pundro, Jag, like that. And each step, you break it down so that it's easy for people to start practicing bhakti. So whatever Rupa Goswami gave, Bhaktivinoda Thakur broke it down into smaller pieces for ease. And I think, and I'm going to put this on record and say this in public, that after Saraswati Thakur passed away, 2 of his most powerful disciples were fighting about how to initiate and who to initiate, and who can initiate. And that made the lot of the prachar, the outreach work, suffer. And Srila Prabhupada said that your love for me will be shown by how much you can cooperate with each other. Right? And so as followers of Srila Prabhupada, no devotee should be going to court over the question of initiation, which unfortunately is happening in some areas. It is a major point of contention. So we must understand that in our parampara, Diksha is like college admission. And Shikha is like going to different classes. Right? And our acharyas have given books to us for every level. And there are so many books that you can, after finishing your higher education, you can do continuing education. And even in your next life, you continue studying, the studying will not end. So if we accept Bhaktivinoda Thakur's suggestion, then as Saraswati Thakur says, his teachings will be the great harmonist. That was the name of the journal. So in my first book, I talk about this general idea of harmonizing various conflicting ideologies, practices, and so on and so forth, not to efface them, not to transform them or transmute them, but fit them in the right places. So for example, actually 2 examples. Very often, Vaishnavas bear animosity towards Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and so on and so forth, right? In his Sajjan Toshani, 2nd volume, Bhaktivinoda Thakur does a book review of a life of Sri Ramakrishna that was penned by Vivekananda's elder brother. And in that article, he is actually very respectful towards Ramakrishna. He says, I keep hearing that there is a Paramahamsa Babaji who lives in Dakshineshwar and he's having transcendental symptoms. He does kirtan, he has ecstasy. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that according to the Goswami literatures, these are the symptoms of ecstasy. And if this Babaji is showing genuine symptoms of ecstasy, I offer koti dandavat pranams at his feet. This is how he's talking about Ramakrishna. But we must also understand the literatures properly so that if there are any fake people out there who are cheating, then we will immediately be able to recognize something in those lines. And number 2, Dayananda Saraswati is a very famous reformer in India. He had the slogan, back to the Vedas. And Dayananda Saraswati was vehemently against the practice of Tantra, left-handed Tantra, eating meat, fish, all of that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur penned another article saying that Dayananda Saraswati is a great personality, but I don't think he understands the essence of the Vedas. Why is he criticizing the Tantrikas? Tantras have been written by Lord Shiva himself, who is a great Vaishnava. And because human nature can be in Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, there are people in tamas who need the tantras. Not everybody will come up to the sattvic level. And so it is the responsibility of all Vaishnavas to stand up for their Shakta brethren if the Shaktas are unable to defend themselves in Putana Siddhanta. I am yet to find another Vaishnava who's so broad-minded, who says we should stand up for our Shakta brethren and defend Tantra, because Tantras are written by Lord Shiva himself. So reading all those stuff was very sobering for me, because then I realized the difference between indoctrination and education. When we are educated, we are not insecure in our bhakti. When we are indoctrinated, anything that we experience that is not in alignment with what we already believe, we perturb. And this is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur also draws a fine line of distinction between faith and belief. Faith, for example, falling in love is an act of faith. You don't know what's going to happen. Getting married is an act of faith. The bus is an act of faith. So we live our everyday lives based on acts of faith. Tomorrow morning I will get up and I will know that my partner, my wife, has suddenly not gone rogue. It's act of faith. Right? But belief means to accept certain ideas as true, whether or not we know it is true. And the sign of real progress, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is when we are able to separate these two. Faith is natural, but faith must also deepen with time. And beliefs will change. All of us, or most of us, believed in Santa Claus when we were young. Right? And then one day we found out there was no Santa Claus. But the faith that people will surprise me if they love me is there with or without Santa Claus.
That developed.
Yes. Similarly, on the path of bhakti, there might be some initial beliefs. But as bhaktas, we must be open-minded. The more deeper truths we come across from our acharyas, we have to accept what our acharyas are saying. So one of the most difficult things for me was...
Let me just get in. I want to bring you back just slightly to the point about Bhaktivinoda Thakur asking us to come to the defense of the Shaktas, so to speak. So for a broader global audience, we may not be dealing with Shaktas here in America, for instance. How might that principle translate into interfacing with other value cultures, other religions? How would Bhaktivinoda Thakur want us to do that, do you think?
It's there in the first chapter of his book, Chaitanya Shikhamrita. He says that people turn to religious life or spiritual life because of 4 reasons. Bhoy, Asha, Kartavya Buddhi, and Bhoy means fear. People are afraid they're going to die, they're going to lose their dear ones, and that is why they turn to something transcendental to themselves. A little better than that is Asha. Asha means hope, that I want a good life, I want some money, I want everybody to be secure. Asha. That is also the reason people turn to spiritual life. Then Kartavya Buddhi. Kartavya Buddhi means sense of responsibility or duty. That I am enjoying certain privileges. I don't know who to thank. Therefore, I thank God, Ishwar, whatever you want. But the 4th one is Rag. Rag means spontaneous attachment. And then he says that because of these 4 reasons, people practice whatever they do in various levels. Only when kutarko means argumentation without practice, enters the mind, then the simple intuitive bhakti that we have in our heart gets covered up. He said, even if you go to tribal people who Western people will say, oh, they're uncivilized, they don't wear clothes, they don't have electricity, even they will bow down to some trees, some mountains, some river. Bhakti is spontaneous. And to the level one removes the veil of avidya, bhakti manifests. And Bhaktivinod Thakur says that he met, this is in a book Tattva Viveka, he met a Burmese Buddhist monk who was traveling through Calcutta. And Bhaktivinod Thakur writes that I asked this monk, what is Buddhism? And he said, well, there is Buddha who is God, I am a Jiva and I love him. And then Thakur says that, isn't it so wonderful that he doesn't know anything about Buddhism, but he has intuitively come to the path of bhakti? He says that when we do not get into this mental gymnastics, then intuitively bhakti comes from the heart. I wrote an article on this. It was released last year. It's available online for free, called Innate Intuition. So if you just Google search Innate Intuition Abhishek Ghosh, it will come up and anybody can download it for free. Bhaktivinod Thakur says that this is Shahaj. Shahaj means spontaneous. Sahaja in Sanskrit. Saha means together and Ja means born. It's born with you. It's not artificial. And that's why Prabhupada says even a cat or a dog can take part in this Sankirtan movement. It's so simple. It's so simple. It is, and I wrote another article right before Trump got elected in 2016. And it's in Yoga Chicago magazine. This is also available for free online. It's called The Yoga of Politics. It's written for a yoga audience. And at the end of that article, I summarized the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 3 points. I said, the purpose of this movement is to educate, meditate, and celebrate. Educate, meditate, and celebrate. So to come back to your question on how we can deal with others who are not on our path, Bhaktivinod Thakur says that whenever we see somebody offering, doing their prayers or whatever, namaz, he talks about namaz, praying 5 times a day, turning to Mecca. He says, whenever we observe such things, we must feel in our heart that these people are offering their respects to the same divine being, same Krishna or whatever I do. They are doing it in their own culture, in their own way. Now, if anybody, whether it's us or them or anybody else, engages in violence, in himsa, because they think their path is superior, then Bhaktivinod Thakur says they value himsa more than their own love for God. So that is very sobering. That the question is, if you're judging others all the time, what do you value? Do you value your own superiority, or do you value your love for Krishna? So don't judge. And then he says, if you see something that is against dharma, accept that as a disease of consciousness. Just as your body has disease, your consciousness can also have disease. And the disease of consciousness actually embodies us in this world. And that disease of consciousness comes in the form of accepting this world as unreal, not being kind, not being merciful, or say that
So I'd like you to say that again. So the disease of consciousness is reflected in a kind of dismissal of this world, then, that this is unreal. So therefore, I don't need to be kind. I don't need to be dutiful.
Yes, this world is false. There is another thing devotees don't necessarily understand very well, is the distinction between Brahmavad and Mayavad. Brahmavad is to accept that everything is Brahman. And that is Vedic injunction, that is there in the Vedas. Sarva khalu idam Brahman, yatova imani bhutani jayante tad jiggasva tad Brahman. These are, Shruti. And Mahaprabhu accepts all of this. So the fact that everything is Brahman, the phone is Brahman, Deva Madhav Prabhu is Brahman, this desk is Brahman, the evening is Brahman. And then Krishna himself says, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. that when one is doing a yajna, the fire is Brahman, the ladle is Brahman, the ghee is Brahman, the offering of the sacrifice is Brahman, the whole activity is Brahman. But Bhagavat says, Vadanti tat tattvatis tattvam tat jnanam advayam brahmeti. So Krishna is advaya, non-dual. He is one. But brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. So we are Brahman. But when on the level of Brahman, you cannot experience rasa. Because as they say in English, it takes two to tango. You know, and that is why Jiva Goswami and other acharyas say, yes, it is true. On the level of tattva, everything is Brahman. On the level of yoga, you can see Paramatman everywhere. But only on the level of bhakti do you realize the sweetness of Bhagavan. Mayavad, on the other hand, says everything is false. So sometimes we equate Mayavadis with Brahmavadis. And, you know, and they say these Vaishnavas are immature. They don't know what they're talking about. So we must recognize Shakole Shanmano Korite Shakoti Deho Natho Jata Jato. We learn how to give Shamman, how to respect to everybody, including animals and plants, according to their level.
So now, not playing devil's advocate, but also including this understanding of Bhaktivinod Thakur's legacy that he addressed what we call the Upasampradayas from Mahaprabhu's movement. So how did he approach that in a way that's in line also with the discussion you're bringing now, which is, I think, very important, which is that we look to respect first. How did he address those Upasampradayas then?
Thing is, Upasampradaya is an idea that has infiltrated a particular community. That doesn't mean that these individuals stop being servants of Krishna. They are jivas. So how to engage with them? Bhaktivinod Thakur would do that by writing songs. Baul baul bolcho shobe hoccho baul kaojo na darikra dekhiye o bhai korcho shudu boncho na.
You'll have to give me a translation, but it sounds very sweet. And I think I know which sampradaya he's addressing.
Baul baul bolche shobe. You say you call yourself baul baul baul. But are you really a baul? You're just showing your dadi, your beard, your hair. But you know, that is cheating. That is duplicitous to people who come to you. So whoever he would meet, he would speak from our shastras. In fact, Bhaktivinod Thakur had a servant, Krishnadas Babaji, I think, yes, who wrote a book called Bhaktivinod Charit. It's written in Bengali poyar, you know, like poetry. And there, a conversation between Radharaman Charan Babaji and Bhaktivinod Thakur is given. Radharaman Charan Babaji is the, you know, is the custodian of many places of Mahaprabhu's Leelas in Bengal and Orissa. They're the ones who sing Bhajo Nitai Gaur Radhesham Japo Hare Krishna Hare Ram. And, you know, instead of turning that into an instruction, they turned that into a kirtan. So Bhajo Nitai Gaur, you worship Nitai Gaur, you worship Radhesham, and you chant the Mahamantra. As an instruction, that is fine. But they replaced that with the Mahamantra. So Bhaktivinod Thakur went and had several dialogues, it is said in that book. And at the end, this guru realized that, yes, I have made a mistake. What do I do now? I have so many disciples. If I change my Siddhanta, they will all get very upset. So Bhaktivinod Thakur says, you stop preaching. You tell your disciples that you want to go and just do bhajan. And let them gradually find their path back to, you know, the authentic parampara. And you and I can be friends. We can have talks.
Wow.
So that is how we don't need to. We can criticize ideas, but once we criticize people, it becomes personal, right? And so Apo Sampradaya, he's talking about the ideology of Aul, Baul, Karta, Bhaja, Nera, Neri. And there is one singular principle behind this criticism. That is hypocrisy. Bhaktivinod Thakur is not against people having sex. No, none of our acharyas are against people having sex. But to, as Krishna says, to let your mind dwelled on sense objects while you're externally away from them is nothing but hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is antithetical to bhakti. So if someone can, Bhakti Siddhanta himself, he was a Naishtika brahmachari. Naishtik means one who has nishtha, dedication, dedicated brahmachari. And his point was, if I had the means and if you can guarantee me that all the children I raise will be Krishna conscious, I'll marry many, many times.
Yeah.
Being married, having children is a good thing. Bhaktivinod Thakur had 14 children. I'm struggling with one. Srinivas Acharya, he had 2 wives. Nityananda Prabhu, he was a Sannyasi. He was a Kanphata Sannyasi. And then Nityananda Prabhu was almost 14 years older to Mahaprabhu. And when Mahaprabhu was midway through his Jagannath Puri Leela, he called Nityananda. He says, Nityananda, you are mad. Some people call you sannyasi, but you are not married and you interact with women. If you hang out with me, you cannot be this crazy. You go back to Bengal, get married, settle down. And I can tell you that story during Nityananda Trayadashi, but long story short, there was one person, Shurjada Sharkhel, and he had 2 daughters, Bosudha and Janova. And he was very, he was worried about his younger daughter's marriage, especially dowry, because in Bengal it was a, kind of a rite of passage to get dowry, and especially Nityananda had no money. Just imagine going to someone's house and saying, I want your daughter's hand in marriage, but I have no money.
Terrible. Been there.
And then Shrutada Shakal was also a little hesitant because, if elder daughter goes in and marries Nityananda Prabhu, who was, Vaishnav in his eyes, what will happen to my younger daughter? And Nityananda could read his mind. And he says, okay, I want one dowry that you have already, and you will be happy to give that dowry away. So don't refuse me when I ask for it, okay? He says, what dowry do you want? He said, I will marry Vasudha, but I want Janova as dowry. So, because these 2 sisters were inseparable, Nityananda Prabhu understood their heart. And he brought Vasudha and Janova. And the next thing, is that Sankirtan, because Mahaprabhu initially led it, it was mostly a male-centered activity. Even if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya chapter 13, description of Mahaprabhu dancing in front of the chariot, you will see most of them are men. Nityananda Prabhu started introducing women to lead. He says, why shouldn't they? So Vasudha was taking care of his household, and they had 10 children. 10 children. And Janova Devi was the leader. And they used to go out doing Sankirtan together. And Nityananda Prabhu used to carry an iron rod. And women, men, everybody. And it is my interpretation of Bhaktivinod Thakur's mood that is Vishnupriya Devi was in Navadvip. And Mahaprabhu understood the magnitude of the Bhagavat and this potential to save the world, and therefore he gave up his small household life in Navadvip to go and travel across India. But somehow between friends and family, Nityananda Prabhu was not very happy with Mahaprabhu. How can you leave a young wife behind like that? And that's why when Mahaprabhu was traveling to Jagannath Puri, one of the reasons he broke his danda was like, you Nimai, you're mad. And so Nityananda Prabhu settled in a place called Kharda, which is little north of Calcutta. And he would take all the ladies and children and everybody out, the whole village, and Bhajo Gaurango, Kaho Gaurango, Laho Gaurangero Namore, sing Gaurango. Then Bhajo Sri Krishna, Kaho Sri Krishna. After that, Gaurango, Bhajo Sri Krishna, Kaho Sri Krishna, then Hare Krishna, right? And that's how this thing spread. And Bipin Bihari Goswami, who was Bhaktivinod's Dikha Guru, or I would say admissions officer, into the parampara, he came straight in the line of Janava Devi. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur took his instructions from Gorkishore Das Babaji, Jagannath Das Babaji, and there was another Babaji in Puri whose name. So to come back to the book, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur does, he says that this culture is very beautiful. We have a potential to ease the conflict that we see around the world. And he says that the way to do that is to introduce the concept of rasa in the world's religions. We don't have to make Christians to Hindus, or we don't have to convert anybody. They can do whatever they're doing. We just tell them what is rasa, and future sharagrahis, essence seekers, will be able to translate rasa according to the culture they are in.
And one, Thakur, this is in Tattva Vivek?
This is in Krishna Sangita.
Oh.
And other places too, articles. This future Saragrahis will be able to understand Mahaprabhu's mission very deeply and go to other cultures and, whatever they are doing, introduce it as a part of that culture. And how to do that? Well, you have to send these books where the ideas were written. This is the blueprint, and since you brought up the blueprint, and the basis of engagement between Vaishnavas and people from any other thought schools, whether they're politicians, philosophers, or religionists. This is what we have to offer. And so just to sum up, my first book has 4 key chapters: world history and Bhakti. So Hegel, who was Karl Marx's guru, wrote that civilizations grow like people. And China, India, Egypt, they are stuck at their infancy. Whereas Europe has reached the level of maturity, and therefore Europe has a right to colonize the whole world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then there was another historian called John Stuart Mill, who said that India is a very interesting part of British history. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur rewrote a Vaishnava history of India. And he said that, he kind of took Hegel's model and flipped it. He said, yes, civilizations are like growing people, except we are in a varnashram system, right? And civilizations have different levels of growth. The British are in their grihastha ashram, and we are in our vanaprastha and sannyas ashram. And the telos, the ultimate aim of history, is not to have a perfect nation state, because that is how Western civilization has looked at history. That history will develop in such a way that at the end, one day, we will have this utopia. Governments will work and people will be happy. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that will never happen. The only way to reach that is to engage in Harinam Sankirtan. And it doesn't mean Harinam Sankirtan in the Sanskrit language. It can be in any language. Nam nam nadhikari bahudani ja sarvasakti tatrarpita niyame nas varanena kala etadrishi tava kripa bhavan maapi durdaiva ishwajani nanu raga. And Prabhupada, when Prabhupada goes to Tehran and he hears the azan in the morning, Allahu Akbar, Prabhupada closes his eyes and says, this is so beautiful. They are chanting the same holy names in their language, in their culture. And I was just reading Yogeshwar Prabhu's book, Swami in a Strange Land. Excellent, excellent book. I highly recommend everybody read it at least once. And Prabhupada was meeting with the theosophists in Paris who kept insisting, what is your deepest teaching? And Prabhupada says, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling. This is no. This is external. Tell me what is real. No meat eating. He kept repeating. And then these people got exasperated, and Yogeshwar Prabhu writes that I saw a tear fall from Prabhupada's eye onto his dhoti. And Prabhupada said, they aren't real Christians. Real Christians cannot kill. Their heart will be full with compassion. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and this is also in my book, writes an article called Krishna Hriday Vaishnav Dharma Uday. Vaishnava Dharma in the heart of a Christian. What does it mean? He says this person has Siddhanta, that is our Siddhanta also. That we are separate jivas, There is Ishvara, who is Swarat, Avikya, as the Bhagavatam says. We have a relation with that Ishvara. That is the purpose of life. And I think it's the same John Newman who wrote that bhajan, English bhajan, Amazing Grace.
How sweet the sound.
There you go. So I think it is the same Newman, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions Newman, the theologian who wrote that. And so in that article, Krishna Hridaya Vaishnav Dharma Hridaya, he in other places he says, just as there are Christians who are not Christians, there are Vaishnavas who are not Vaishnavas. They wear tilak, mala, everything. But they don't understand what is Vaishnavism.
Even if they're wearing a dhoti?
Yes. And it doesn't matter, because sometimes you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not wearing a dhoti. When he went to court, he was wearing his magistrate dress. So our tradition is dress for the occasion, or dress what your heart tells you. And in Prema Pradip, he actually mentions this point, that one's external dress should reflect one's internal bhava. So if you peer pressure somebody into wearing dhoti kurta where they feel uncomfortable, then you will have movements like Krishna West. And then the purpose, that is, ignore the dress, focus on Krishna, that is lost. So wearing shirt pant and chanting Hare Krishna, or wearing dhoti kurta and chanting Hare Krishna is, it's like saying, because now you are in a white body, you cannot be chanting. So what is the difference between having a white body and wearing shirt and pant? These are all external coverings. Jaiva Dharma, the essential nature of the self, is prem. Whether one is naked, when is shirt pant, dhoti kurta, or dipped in the Gangas so that nobody is looking. In Mayapur, it happens sometimes. If you go to bathe at the wrong time, little kids can steal your gamcha and run away.
For sure.
You're standing in the Ganga thinking, what is happening?
Yeah.
That's when you ask for help, and you realize how helpless the Gopikas were when Krishna was being a naughty boy.
Hare Krishna. So, you brought up Krishna West, and that might be a good time to discuss the many different groups and interests that there appear to be within the Gaudiya Vaishnava society in general today. That it's spread all over the world, and naturally birds of a feather flock together, as Srila Prabhupada described. And so there appears to be a kind of sectarian energy even within the Vaishnava community. So how do you think Bhaktivinoda Thakur would address that growing, seeming separateness within the devotees?
He said, in his language, in his English, he said, party spirit is the enemy of truth. What he means is partisan spirit. Right? That means I am this party, you're that party, I am better than you. That is the enemy of truth. When we start differentiating ourselves, Ritananda Maharaj is my Brahman Diksha Guru. He and I had several conversations on this. And personally, I haven't told this to him, but personally, I think that even before Krishna West, there should be Krishna women. Because 50% of our talented, brilliant ladies who has dedicated their lives to Krishna are, kind of not allowed to hold certain roles and responsibilities that they're very capable of holding, just because they have to happen to be in a woman's body. If you are not this body, right, there are some physiological things that are different. There are some psychological things that are different. But this is how I understand when Prabhupada says women are less intelligent. Prabhupada also says men are unscrupulous.
Sure.
So you match those two statements together. And Krishna says women intelligence is a sign of women,
Sure.
Fine speech, beauty. So you will think Prabhupada is contradicting Krishna? No. Prabhupada says that there are men who take advantage and they don't take responsibility, and women fall for them. That is the only... Prabhupada is not talking about women there. Prabhupada is talking about these men who are unscrupulous.
Sure. I heard one devotee put it that, Chanakya Pandit, don't trust a woman or a politician. He said, okay, but all men are politicians, so who can you trust then?
Exactly. But more than that, in that verse, in that context, women are politicians. They're talking about courtly culture where there are Vishakanyas and Ganikas, women who are part of the court who function as spies.
Mm-hmm.
So every verse must be read in context.
Okay. So without veering off too much, just back to the general idea, because Krishna West seems to be serving its purpose for some devotees to feel comfortable. And yet it also creates a sense of, in some people's eyes, sectarianism or separation. And that's not the only, there's nationalistic lines that are being drawn, et cetera, et cetera. So what might Bhaktivinod Thakur say about that in that modern expression today?
Bhaktivinod Thakur would say, Charo to Purush Abhiman. Abhiman means egotistic identification. Purush means I am the Lord, enjoyer, this is for me. You give up this Purush Abhiman. As long as you think I am a Hindu, I am an American, I am a Krishna West person, my hat is cooler than your shaved head. We are missing the essential point of Krishna Bhakti. I see some people complain, because I was wearing shirt and pant, I was not allowed to lead kirtan. Fine, take that as an opportunity to be humble. Why, and then you go out and do your own kirtan. Kirtan doesn't necessarily have to happen in ISKCON temple. The whole wide world is open for you. I myself, last year I was a part of this year too, Shastrik Advisory Committee, and we met in Italy in one of the centers, and I wasn't carrying any dhoti with me. I didn't know I had to give a Bhagavatam class. So they put my name there and I had to rush and give a class. And I was wearing, like my kurta pajama like I wear. And the temple authorities and the devotees complained, why aren't you wearing? So, next time I'll wear, no problem. So I didn't have to make a whole political statement about Krishna wears dhoti, kurta, that. And if I feel uncomfortable wearing dhoti in any given part, any place, I will not give that class. If somebody is more interested in my dhoti than in hearing Bhagavatam, have I got to say? In Vada, in Govardhaniko village, I have given Bhagavatam class wearing my jeans and t-shirt. Bhagavatam is Bhagavatam. The quality of the Bhagavatam does not change depending on what you wear. So Krishna West has a legitimate point in the sense that just as we do not want Western chauvinism in India, we do not want Indian chauvinism in the West. And Krishna consciousness, Krishna Bhakti is universal. It is not dependent on one's external circumstances. And Prabhupada says in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, when Krishna is returning to Dwaraka, the prostitutes come out to dance and greet Krishna. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that even prostitutes can be great Vaishnavas, and one's profession has nothing to do with one's Krishna consciousness. Even prostitutes can be Krishna conscious. And they wear fancy dress, I'm sure, to attract customers.
He said something very similar in a lecture in 22nd Avenue in the earliest of days. He describes that. Just with our last few minutes here, so we've discussed other religious movements, even within the Vaishnava community, these different apparent divisions. How might Bhaktivinod Thakur relate to the modern social justice movements, these different expressions of civil rights? Those things were going on in India. They were a hot topic in the Bengali Renaissance, etc. So there's probably precedent for that. Do you see some wisdom there that he could offer us for today?
Yes. The wisdom is actually there in Rupa Goswami. That what we do, all human beings, animals, everybody, we are all originally in Krishna consciousness, so to say. That means Krishna Prem is a natural phenomena. But when we are in this world, that prema, that love, gets warped. That means distorted because of our external coverings. And thus, every human being shows all the 9 or 10 rasas, anger, all of that. Bhayanak Rosh, Jugupsha. But anger is a secondary emotion. The primary emotion is disappointment. That means I love something or someone or some situation, and it is not turning out to be the way I want. And that is the sense of experiencing injustice. And whenever there is injustice, one has to act, because if one is not acting when there is injustice, then one is actually a partaker of that injustice. However, any activity to correct any act of injustice must happen with karuna, compassion, and right, what is that word? Insight. So without insight and compassion, any effort to bring justice will end up creating more injustice. And one example is, and I'm actually finishing up a little booklet right now for fall this year. What I call it, it's meant for the US election season. And I combined Barack Obama's Yes We Can and Donald Trump's Make America Great Again. And I say, yes, we can make America great again. And there I systematically look at some of the teachings of Bhaktivinod Thakur on how to resolve conflict that we are experiencing today. Especially as the only brown person in the entire vicinity, sometimes I'm subject to racial abuse. Somebody came and ripped my rose bushes off my garden and left them there. Things like that keep happening. But it is said that once, when the colonial government was there in India, there was a lot of cobras. And this is given in this University of Chicago professor's blog called, who is that famous Freakonomics blog?
Sure.
And this thing is called the Cobra effect in economics. So once upon a time, there were a lot of cobra infestation around Delhi. And the British government decided that we will give money to whoever brings a dead cobra. And very soon they realized that people were bringing more dead cobras than they had anticipated in the Delhi area. So they started investigating. And then they found out that once that news spread that the government will be giving money, farmers started growing cobras, breeding cobras, and selling them to people so that they could go and sell it to the government. So the government stopped buying dead cobras. And, in a very short time, these farmers saw that these cobras were useless, so they just let everybody go. And now there were more cobras in Delhi than they started out with.
Very cool.
When we try to solve problems without insight and without compassion, then we end up creating larger problems. And this is not Bhaktivinod Thakur. It's there in Srimad Bhagavatam 7th Canto. So Bhaktivinod Thakur repeats that in his various articles. That we as human beings and as jivas, we have a natural proclivity to help. It is daya, compassion is natural. But when we help on the same level in which the problems were formed, and without the correct insight and the correct amount of compassion, we will create bigger problems than we are trying to solve. And how do we get compassion and insight? You have to first help yourself. You have to go deep within your own heart. Question your intentions. Is it pure? Am I getting something out of it? Why am I doing this? And then you must also understand limitations, that I'm a limited jiva. There is only so much I can do. Once that bhakti deepens, and to the extent you can, you should do. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is often seen as this, lion guru screaming at everybody. He was actually a very sweet person. I have his personal letters. I'm reading them. Now, not everything is published. Hey, he was extremely sweet. He didn't even have the courage to scream at his disciples sometimes. When he saw that they were making some mistake, he would write down an article and publish in the Gaudiya magazine, because he couldn't directly. Only sometimes when he would be very upset, because one time some devotee was sleeping through the day during a Nijal Ekadashi, right? And Prabhupada called him. Prabhupada means Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada called him and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Prabhupada, I'm very weak. I fasted Nirjala all day." Prabhupada said, "1 minute." He went to the kitchen, made khichdi himself. Says, "Come eat some grains." Please. He says, "Prabhupada, what are you doing?" He says, "No, eat some grains, feel healthy. Now here is the bag of books, go out." So we must understand that there is vidhi and nishedha. Vidhi means principle and nishedha means regulation. Vidhi is satya, nishedha is no meat eating. Vidhi is shaucha, no illicit sex, and it comes back to the upasampradaya point. If people keep saying no illicit sex, but they don't know what illicit sex is, right? Illicit sex is when there is hypocrisy, and thus there will be fear, guilt, shame, and hurry. If that is there in your sex life, then it is illicit. That means it is pricking your conscience somewhere. If it is not pricking your conscience, you may have 4, 5, 10, husbands, wives. What is the problem? Draupadi has 5 husbands. Now Kumarila Bhatta says there are exceptions. Those are exceptions. Today, not everybody can handle that kind of situation. But the Pandavas are great Vaishnavas. And even while Arjun is married to Draupadi, he goes and marries Subhadra because he's now fallen in love with Subhadra. And Krishna says, no problem, I'll help you kidnap her. Against Balaram's wishes.
Yes.
These are transcendental things. What I'm saying, in terms of illicit sex, whenever there is these 4 things, then, and dishonesty, Satya, Shocha, Tapadaya is compromised, then it is illicit. Whether it's sex, eating, whatever. Any last point you want to make?
Yeah, well, I appreciate it reminds me, Bhaktivinod Thakur says the essence of a sampradaya or an apasampradaya is to make an exception a rule. So it's a helpful point you just made there. As perhaps an insight from academia, I've always wondered myself how academia views Bhaktivinod Thakur. Do they see that his desire for a worldwide movement has taken place so quickly afterwards? Do they give credit to him? How's he viewed within the academic community as maybe a final question you can discuss for us?
Sure. Different scholars do study different aspects of Bhaktivinod Thakur. Let me show you this book. Shukavak Prabhu, who was one of the early devotees in the movement, he wrote this book called Hindu Encounter with Modernity. That was his PhD dissertation at the University of Toronto. I think about 7, 8 people have done their PhDs now on Bhaktivinod Thakur so far. And, if Shakespeare's Macbeth can have 500 PhDs written on it, I think Bhaktivinod Thakur warrants more.
Very well.
He's a genius of the first order. What I write in my book is that Vaishnavas need to recognize that he's much, much bigger than just being a footnote to Prabhupada. That's how we treat him, but that's not who he is. He's a very big thinker, bigger than Bankim Chatterjee, bigger than many of the so-called Bengal Renaissance people that we hear about. Because he is somebody whose archives are Vaishnava, and because he has explored the entire ambit. He was not born a Vaishnava. He was born in a Shakta family. And he went to Brahma Samaj. Then he went to the Scottish Presbyterians. Then he went to the Unitarians. So he studied the whole breadth of whatever was available. He studied Islam and Christianity and Hegel and Kant and all of those. And then he said, actually, now I recognize the mighty genius of Nadia. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So after going through everything, that's his conclusion. And someone as smart as him, means what he says.
Yeah, it says something that he chose the Nadia version of things.
And he calls Mahaprabhu his Eastern savior. So he saw in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu someone as big as Jesus Christ. And if Jesus Christ has influence, Jesus Christ undoubtedly, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is undoubtedly 2 of the most influential historical characters on planet Earth today. And Bhaktivinod Thakur envisioned Mahaprabhu playing a similar role, but without creating the war that has been exported from the Middle East. Does that make sense to you?
Sure. Thank you.
With just one statement, this year we are inaugurating a website called bhaktivinoda.org, where we are bringing together various leaders of his family to offer their respects and also make all of his works available. It is my life work to make all of his works available. And when that is available, I will send it to you. You can share it with your readers. And to finish off, I just wanted to you know, I just wanted to give a sample of his handwriting.
Hare Krishna, what a treat.
Uh,
Is this a personal composition journal, or is that a book that he handprinted?
it's his journal that I received from one of Lalita Prasad Thakur's family members.
Mm.
It is some of his journals going to Jagannath Puri.
Wow.
And doing tirtha, and so he, somebody is writing what happened in Kurukshetra, where he stayed, a description of his travels. This is his travel journal.
Wow, how exciting.
Yes, I'm just trying to seduce you to coming to Grand Rapids.
That's easy. You might seduce many others now also, though. The airlines might be thanking you for helping them increase international travel.
Have you and your wife over sometime? It was wonderful chatting with you yesterday and today.
Thank you. That was very kind of you, Prabhu. We'll be happy to come soon.
Yes. And we are planning something at Grand Valley State University. So if I'm not here and if you're here, you can take lead.
Hare Krishna. Many appreciations from Facebook also, and yesterday the same. So hopefully we can have you back on the channel to discuss Bhaktivinod Thakur more.
Happy to serve.
Jai, thank you very much. Again, Krishna Abhishek Prabhu, 2 days in a row now discussing Bhaktivinod Thakur. He's got 2 books coming out soon, and this website sounds wonderful also, bringing all the original texts of Bhaktivinod Thakur into one consolidated place. That would be such a tremendous resource for the Vaishnava community worldwide. So thank you for taking on that service. We feel it's from your heart, and we look forward to being with you again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Hare Krishna.